Hey, welcome back to the podcast, buddy. Yeah. So,
Thank you.
we were talking about this new chapter over here, right? As you were mentioning. Tell me a little bit about what you were encountering.
Talking about with like the gig economy and working DoorDash.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been working DoorDash as I just moved back to San Diego after being gone from California for about 5 years. And I bought a car and I rented an apartment and I needed to earn some income while I get back into my typical field of work. And so I started door dashing and I said, well, I did this in San Diego about 7 years ago. I came and I door dashed for about a week. I made good money, a couple $100 a day. So I said, maybe if I make a little bit less, I'll still be fine. 160, 180. And I'd go out and I'd drive and I would get very few orders. And I was just baffled at the end of the day. I'm like collecting 60, $80 if I'm lucky, 85, something like that. And I'm just like, how can I work 10 hours, although albeit fragmented, and only make this amount of money? And I came to the realization of two things. One, because I don't want to blame this all on individuals, but one of them is it just pays less now because of the companies. DoorDash, Uber, they found out how to pay drivers less. But there's also another factor to it, which is, and I hate to sound like I'm blaming a group of individuals for my problems, but I can't help but to notice that, and it's confirmed with news stories and everything, that there is a very large population of people that are not supposed to be. And I'm talking about undocumented individuals, ones, I mean, some people will call them gotaways or whatever, but I'm not talking about people with work visas. I'm not talking about people with, H1, H2 visas or anything like that. I'm not talking about green card holders or naturalized citizens. I'm talking about straight up undocumented individuals that there's no record of them or anything like that. Driving DoorDash, Uber, or other gig economy jobs here in San Diego. And according to my estimates, and I did some rough numbers on this, there's approximately 40,000 gig economy workers in San Diego, maybe 50,000. And there could be anywhere from 10 to 30% of these individuals that are driving, that are surging competition for jobs in this area. So when I discovered this, at first I'm just like, oh, at first I didn't realize the extent of the situation or the numbers. I'm just like, oh, okay, it's a little hard to make money. And then, yes, I started getting upset. And then, yes, I started looking for where the problem points were. And I couldn't help but to put my finger on that as one of the factors of the reason why I'm not making as much money. So ultimately, I don't like the ice raids that are going on. It makes me feel very, very, very bad. Um, but and I'm not going to change my mind on. I think it's the wrong way to do it. We should have smart, comprehensive immigration reform. But on the other side of that coin is I certainly understand and maybe even empathize with those individuals who think, who are in situations like me, who are in direct competition, or for whatever reason, think that the ICE raids are okay, unless they're just outright being racist, which I think is wrong. So that's essentially what I'm trying to lay out is how do I balance compassion for individuals, which I really do have, and I know I've been accused of not, but I really do have compassion for individuals that are just trying to make it, man. But at the same time, how do I balance that with, you know, the reality that I'm facing on the ground?
That's kind of how gig economy works, right? It's more of a side job situation over there, and the fact that
Yeah,
DoorDash and other companies are paying low wages, which they have. I guess uh, they have a lawsuit about that. And
yeah,
then it is dependent on tips. That's obviously. I think
right.
that one over there they pay 100% of the tips, right?
They pay 100% of the tips, yes.
Yeah. And though there's still that problem that you know the more the more people that is working on it, then definitely the chances of actually getting an order are pretty. They're lessened, right? They're lower.
Right,
So
right.
I can understand that component. When it gets a little muddy, is as you were mentioning, is like you can help to notice the other people. I think it would be more of the opportunities that you have that you're looking for. And this is funny. This kind of falls into the political thing. It the political environment um, on the right tries to justify typical economy to find someone to blame. You, you know,
Yes.
and so you notice that because you're more keen to see that kind of stuff, especially on the right wing, right, where they're saying, well, my life would be better if blank wasn't
Right.
around. And that's where I get a little more philosophical. For me, I came over here learning construction, right? Worked in construction, and I set out a path to become indispensable on what I did. So I prepared to learn more. I spent a lot of time studying, just kind of not just being at the job, not just doing the job, but actually learning how to do it and how to be better, how to manage it, and so on, and just
Yep.
keep it moving. So I'm not worried about competition in the sense that I worry more about being the best me I can offer, right? And
Right.
so in the sense that what you're saying, um, is it because of of these other people? I wouldn't really think so. I mean, a person like you that's so smart, you can create other venues to make your money. There's plenty of other ways to make your money. You can do it on the, you're educated. You can make your money on a computer. You don't even have to drive around. And that, I guess, that's what I'm saying, is that the political environment pushes you to think, uh, I want to find someone else to blame, when in reality there's many, many, many other opportunities. You know, and
Right.
many of these people that actually exist, that they're working for DoorDash, they also order on DoorDash. They also work and they
Yeah.
do. You see what I'm saying? They're really helping with the economy because they're consumers, right? They can't help themselves with being consumers. I think that's one of the biggest problems that I see when I have that argument about immigration, is that people forget the fact that just because you came over here on whatever way you came over here, you're not get away from not paying taxes when they got at the gas pump, right? They still pay
Exactly.
taxes on the gas pump. They still gotta pay taxes when they go to a grocery store, and so they're big help to the economy because they're moving in the economy, right? They're consumers themselves, and there's nothing they can do about it. I remember, you know, there's a story that they always tell you. This whole story about why you come over here and then you find a job quickly, and then if you open the door to a gringo, he'll give you $20. So they painted all this like green grass thing, like, come to the United States and you're gonna make so much money. It's not even funny. They forgot to mention you that your rent is high too, and groceries are not the same cost that they have where you come from. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you,
Exactly. Yeah.
and you gotta eat, and you gotta have a shelter, and at least in California, not having a car is basically being you can't go without a car here. It's just not a thing.
No, you can't. You can't. Not unless you're in the middle of San Francisco and you're lucky enough to work right by where you live. But even then, you got to have a job that pays 160K a year.
I mean, heck, I met people in San Francisco that never left San Francisco. It's just crazy to me, right? That I met people that live in the city and they just never leave the city. They never gone to Oakland. So I guess that
Yeah.
kind of people it works. But for most people, especially in California, not having a car and not expecting to be driving 30, 40, 1 hour, it's
Yeah.
not a thing. It's just not a thing here. So
So
what I'm saying
basically,
is,
go
what
ahead.
I'm,
Go ahead.
what I'm saying is that there's a lot of people that, the more the community, the more they're going to be part of the consumers and also the producers, and so competition is also going to grow, but economy is going to be bigger, right?
Right.
So it it would feel like like it's a struggle, but not necessarily like this. many people that I know, for example, you were earlier talking about, how things get lower cost. Like if you wanted to do yards, for example, right? Some work for doing yard work, it'll be so much more less money because there's so much more competition that you're probably not going to make a whole lot of money out of doing the yard work. I can understand that. Now, granted, I don't even do my own yard work, and it's a lot of hard work, and I'm
Yes.
I'm really not good at it. So,
Yeah.
I'm not going to start. Um, so I invest my mind to do other things that I'm interested on, and ultimately, I can earn more on. On the side gigs, for example, some of the things that I've done, right? I used to pick up things in Craigslist, fix them up, sell them. That was actually a gig that was fairly good. And then a long time ago, as you know, I had another YouTube channel for just construction, and that actually also produced money. So I guess it's you look for the opportunities that work. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do, and I would just say, look, like I get that, and I think that there's really, and one of the things that I noticed, like you were saying, like, well, these individuals order DoorDash too, which, yeah, I think that some of them are ordering DoorDash. I think also that there's a couple cultural differences as well, because someone like me, growing up in this country, this is we're a very independent minded people in the United States. We want things our way. We want our own space, on our privacy, that type of thing. That's kind of like the culture that many Americans grow up. Not all, but many. And sometimes other cultures, depending on where they come from, particularly some of the Asian cultures, are interdependent, and they don't really grow up with that, I want independence type of thing. They really are just interdependent. And so I think there's some of the interdependence going on here, and I could see like people will live together in these massive communities, cook together, share food, share other resources, which is great. I think I think a lot of Americans need to take note, so because there's this massive cultural difference where, if we pool our resources together, we could save money. So, like for example, the Tanda loan groups. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, where 10 or 20 people get together and they all, put money into a pool, and one week, this person gets $2,000 or $1,000, and then the next week another person gets 1,000. And these Standa economies are loan groups really help individuals. So the pooling of the resources together, I think, makes it cheaper for individuals. So my question there would be, how much is and I didn't really even want to get it into a place of how much does one group put into the economy over the others, because simply I was making the point that, like, the competition, because there in my mind I feel like there's got to be a law of diminishing returns at some point. If I have a grass, I mean, if I have a field with grass in it, and there's grass growing everywhere, and I just go throw more grass seed and more grass seed, and every day I throw more grass seed, it's not going to grow the same amount of grass every day, because each blade of grass requires a certain amount of soil to grow, and it can only have a certain amount of neighbors. We can't grow grass on top of grass on top of grass. Eventually there's going to be suffocation somewhere. So to my point is like, where I think here in San Diego there's a very, very big hot spot of where there's some suffocation. Now that may not be as much in other places, like in Des Moines, Iowa, or in Salt Lake City, Utah, or in Chesterfield, Virginia, or something like that. But here in San Diego is a very, very, very heavily concentrated competition for the lower echelon of income earners, like I am right now. But to the other point is, me mentioning like me being able to go and do something else and being creative. Like, yeah, I'm very ready to do that, and I have the education and the skill and experience to do that, and I'm currently working on it. But even if I didn't want to, do that, in my mind, or let's say I didn't have that education and I was forced to be sort of at the bottom, quote unquote. then that's where I'm at. And my social mobility is limited, even though my social mobility right now, because of my education and experience, is higher than those on average in that are doing DoorDash right now as full-time income. Still, that shouldn't change the fundamental issue at hand, which is you got a bunch of people in a gig economy market that are technically not supposed to be. And if the answer to that is, well, then make it to where they're supposed to be, and then I'm willing to have that conversation and see, make some cessation to make some allowances there and be like, yeah, okay, let's change some laws and let's do smart comprehensive immigration reform. Maybe we do some fines for people that are undocumented. They could become pathway to citizenship, sure. But the very first thing that people have to do is admit there's a problem, and nobody wants to admit that there's a problem right now because everybody's doing like this mental gymnastics, seemingly, around that problem. Like, nope, it's not a problem because of this, and this. But if we can't recognize a problem, then we can never fix it.
Well, yeah, I think that my counterpoint is that there's a lot of people that recognize the problem, but there's a lot of people on the opposite side that they're just trying to blame the problem. They're not trying to
Yeah.
solve the problem, right? You know,
Yeah.
as we
Sure.
mentioned before, that we were talking one time about this, the immigration, right? And there's always this argument that I hear all the time that to say, well, if they come the right way. Yet, if you
Yeah.
ask them what is the right way, to the normal people that will tell you, hey, if they come the right way, then that'll solve the problem. And then you ask them, okay, so what is the right way? What are the right ways that you know? They don't know. They
Right.
have no clue. And they also not only they have no clue, they have no interest in learning or knowing what is the right way.
Right.
So I thought I was a huge proponent of the policy that it was pushed under Biden, which was get more judges, right? Allow them to go through the process faster, give them the resources. So give us, our system, the resources to expedite this process so they can actually work the way it's intended to be, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you, someone who's a naturalized citizen is not a super easy path. And sometimes um, it's by design, and it's really good. I mean, I couldn't I had to prove that I was earning enough to sustain myself and my family, and I had to prove that I was not asking for any social benefits, right? So I never ever in 20 years qualified for any social help, and that's okay. I was happy with it, but I was able to go through it because during the process, right, I had to check my taxes and all that good stuff, and I was able to bring it. So it was very frustrating that at the beginning, when I came over here, some people were able to get their tax identification, the ITIN number, and then they were able to prove their taxes.
Right.
And then somewhere around the Bush administration, they made it really difficult for people to be able to get their ITIN. In fact, they used to kind of do their version of the ICE raids back then, which, again, it just deterred people from getting their taxes. Now, I agree. The system should say, hey, you should demand the taxes. Not the taxes, but the means to see how much you bring in home in order to qualify to any social service, for example. We should also allow you to go through that process, right? And that's my point. My point is, I think there's a lot of people that do want to fix the problem. The system is broken. It's not completely non-existent. That's not true. There is a path, but it's
Sure.
very difficult. And if it and it would be good not just to make it difficult. It would be good to make it so it works, right? Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so,
I agree.
so
100%.
now you brought up some really good points, like the tandas. Tanda, oh my gosh, that brings
Can
to
it
me.
wait? Can before you bring up Tanda, can I just ask you a question?
Mhm.
How do you feel about or what do you think about individuals on the other side using someone like yourself as an example, saying, look, and then I'm going to use what you say the right way, how you characterize what they say is the right way, quote unquote, and they'll use you as an example, saying, look at how Ernesto came. He came, quote unquote, the right way, and never asked for a dime. Raised a family, went from, I don't want to say nothing, but basically came from the bottom all the way, pretty much all the way to the top, right? And that's a perfect use case scenario. That's exactly the type of people that we want. How do you feel about them using someone like you as a use case to bolster their argument?
They have no idea of what my past was, and they use it all the time. When I have conversations with friends, they always say, "But people that came the right way, like you." What does that mean? You don't know
Right.
my past. You don't know how much I struggled. You don't know that I was living with my whole family, parents, brother, wife, 10 people in an itty bitty apartment, and I was sleeping in a couch, uh, for the first 3 or 4 months, zero privacy. The one time, the first, the first thing I bought, when I was here in America, the first thing I bought, I know this sounds crazy, yeah, but the first thing I bought was a DVD, DVD player,
Was a what? A CD player?
a DVD player,
Oh, okay, DVD player.
because I thought it was like because I didn't even have a TV, but I bought a DVD player. And why did I buy a DVD player? Because I had the dream, and I knew I was gonna be able
Right.
to see later on, right?
Absolutely.
And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but when people say, "Oh, but it came the right way," what does that mean? Did they think that everything in the past was easy for me, and so it was just all easy? No, no, it wasn't. There were many, many, many times. There were plenty of times when I was driving on the road, or being scared of my life that I was gonna get pulled over by a police guy and randomly getting deported for no reason whatsoever. There were many, many times that I lived in fear. Many, many times that I probably didn't get promoted to the opportunity. I worked very hard because I was just, the immigrant, right? I can't be that good because I'm just one of those people.
Do
You
you
see what I'm
think
saying?
I do?
So
Yeah, go ahead.
when
Go
you
ahead.
think about it that way, the other side of the story also needs to be told. The fact
Right.
that as an immigrant, I can tell you, I would like to bring some people of influence here to the show one day and ask them their thoughts, and I'm sure they're going to share the same thing with me. It's very difficult. We have to
Yes.
work twice as hard, twice as smart, you know, more twice the hours just so we can get noticed. And to say that's also okay, I don't think it's okay. And like I said, I've heard that story many times. They say, well, people that did it right, like, what does that mean? You know what that means, right? That means I actually had to read my history of the United States. I had to learn English. I'm talking to people that are saying you came here the right way. They can't even speak two languages. So you know what that does to
So
me? People like you speak Spanish, you speak other languages. I speak other languages. When I hear people telling me that uh, I was supposed to be on the other side, and I go, guys, you don't even know half your history of the United States, right? What are you talking about? You should take the test.
yeah, it's funny because when I was looking into a little bit how to be a dual Mexican U.S. citizen, and of course there's a language requirement. You have to learn the language, and they they're not ashamed to say it. Like, you come in here, you must learn the language. And you have to show them that it's kind of the same thing. You got to show them you can make enough money. It's got, albeit it's a little bit less the other way around. But that's the other thing that I sort of wondering as you were telling me that is, I wonder if this is something that's unique to, let's say, because he came from Guatemala, right? And Guatemala is a great country, but GDP wise, economically, it's not the United States. And I'm not saying that to denigrate Guatemala, of course. So I wonder if certain countries like, let's say in Latin America, or perhaps in Africa or in Asia, where the individuals who come to the United States and become naturalized citizens and then full-on U.S. citizens after all of the hard work that they do, and how you were saying, you feel like you're going to get pulled over and anything is going to get you deported. If not feeling like that is uniquely American, or uniquely, not uniquely American, but uniquely from not affecting people from societies where there's money. For example, if somebody with money that's making 180K a year wants to, I don't know, work remotely and move to Honduras, where $180,000 a year, you're clearly going to live like royalty, basically. You're not going to have that fear because if you get pulled over and deported from Honduras, you're like, oh well, okay, I guess I'll go back to San Francisco. You know what I mean? So I wonder if that's a feeling of not having to feel that is unique to people from higher income countries. Do you
Well,
understand what I'm saying?
yeah, I really think so, and I wanted to, share with you. Um, I have been slowly but surely. I have been writing a book. The name of the book is Thinking Like an Immigrant.
Wow.
So hopefully at some point, somebody's gonna
Oh,
be
great,
reading it.
man.
And and from one of the things that I'm sharing in the book is I want to share the experience of thinking like an immigrant. It relates back to what the conversation that we're having today. As an immigrant, um, and I'm only speaking for my shoes and experience, right? I didn't come here to sit down. I didn't come here to sit down on the couch and expect life to happen to me. I didn't come here to just hope that the life was gonna just happen to me. I came here to make the life happen because
Right.
otherwise I just wasted my entire childhood and growth in a really nice country, decent country, where I'm also a very decent country. Um, and just came over here and do the same except less friends, and I have to, and I
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
meet other people that I may not care to meet. So first objective is you have to where you go you need to do what you see, right? For me was you have to learn English, you have to learn the culture. So a completely different thing. You move into a different environment, you have to work with the environment. In your case, it's San Diego, you have to work with the environment what you have, understand the needs
Yes.
and the type of people and embrace it. Not it's funny. In going back to some of the people said the right way, or the other people that say you should speak the language of English. Think about it. If you were on a different country, what would you tell people, right? You're not
Yeah.
gonna learn the language. You think they're supposed to learn yours, you know? So as an immigrant, you get that advancement that you have to evolve. You absolutely have to evolve, and I mean, there's many people that do. So you learn a different language, and then you find the job. I mean, I had two jobs. Sometimes I had three jobs, right? I worked at Wendy's, and then I would work in a restaurant, and then I moved. I promoted myself from working to Wendy's to working in Wendy's and working in construction, which
Wow.
you know, double jobs was definitely fun. And a lot of people go through that struggle today and all the time, right? And I get it. Like we get it. But the weekends was go buy a book to learn about construction, go buy a dictionary and learn more English, to watch your movies in English, fully in English with subtitles because I didn't speak English, but I had to get used to it.
Can I ask you then, do you, because I want to get it, see if I could get a policy prescription out of you. So I mean, would you be in favor of, I think we're both in favor of comprehensive immigration reform just to some degree. Clearly, I'm not like one is like, no, deport everybody. Obviously, that's just the wrong thing to do.
I don't even think
Uh,
anybody is, to be honest with you. It seems like the large majority of people, based on the latest polls, don't think that way. I
no,
think a
you're
lot
right.
of people agrees with you. And
But do you believe that part of that should be a requirement to learn and prove that you've been learning English?
I don't think it hurts. I think it would be good. You know that those tests are in English, right? And in fact, the test that I know all the tests that I took, they were all in English to become a
Right,
citizen, and they
right.
were in history. So it's they don't even have to ask you. If you're going to be a citizen, you're going to have to learn English because there's no way you're going to pass the test without knowing it. And that's
But
okay. It takes if
but
I something I could
yeah,
invite people to do. There are a lot of places and a lot of cities where they're doing the citizenship awards, right? Where they do the graduations.
right.
Allow yourself to go one day. Just Find out when there's one nearby your city and go take a look at it one day. Take a little bit of time. And what you're going to see is the face of 100% proud Americans. Every single one of them. It was, it was one of the biggest achievements in my life, to be honest.
That's awesome. That's
You
awesome.
know, and every single one that was with me, along with us, we were all so proud and so happy. And to this day, right? It's the difference between being given and earned it. So
Yeah.
it kind of kills the dream where you're trying to say on the other side, but I don't really want other people because they overgrow on the grass. When in
Yeah.
reality, what you're getting is the hand that is not going to be throwing more grass. We're developing more land so we can put more grass in. You see what I'm saying? To your
I can
back to
see
your
that.
story.
I could see that, but the only thing to that, and I agree with that, but the only thing is, in order to get more land for the grass, to keep the analogy going, is there has to be a legislative pathway. There has to be a pathway to citizenship, and that pathway to citizenship has to include, by the way, what they already have, because the Immigration and Naturalization Act, 1952, already includes labor certification, to where the Bureau of Labor looks at the number of they look at the quotas coming in, say, okay, quotas from this country, this country, this country, or this region, saying, okay, how many, you know, how many, if you're coming on an H-1B visa or something like that, how many can we have? And they already have like a quota system attached to each visa. So
Hmm.
there'd have to be something, in my mind, the same, because we can buy more land for more grass, but there has to be, in my mind, like a plumbing system, that a way to control certain flows of certain individuals from certain places. And that's what I would think. But I think a lot of people on the on extreme side of the right were like, well, under President Biden, it seemed like anybody just was let in, and that's a problem, even though that wasn't
It,
necessarily
it
the
was
case. It's
exactly. It was never the case. There's a system that is damaged and is inefficient and is old.
yeah.
Okay, guys. Everything is always inefficient and old. I don't see anybody holding the little Nokia phones. Remember those Nokias from the
Yeah.
late 90s? They're
Oh
probably still
yeah.
on, by the way. Those batteries lasted forever.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure I have mine here and it's probably still
Yeah.
on. You know?
Back when you could actually take out the battery from the back, right?
Oh, that's right. The good old days, the good old days when you could actually fix your phone. So, but again, okay, let's make this about the phone. Think about it. We can always say, let's make the phones great again, right? Let's make this phone great again because those phones were great. They were indestructible. They were literally indestructible,
Absolutely.
and they lasted forever, and the batteries lasted forever. You know what else? It have barely text capabilities, and the ringtones could be cool. I was never one of those cool people, so I definitely didn't have a cool ringtone. But beyond that, they didn't take pictures. They didn't use internet, right? We're not able to use them as work tools as good as we can now. I can't. I can print. I could have definitely could have print documents straight on my phone like I can now.
Mm-mm.
So is it going back the better thing, or is it improving the phone the right thing? And that's this is where we are today. We have better technology, faster phones. They have so many more capabilities they had in the past. And we had to make some sacrifices. Batteries last less. And we're gonna get better, I'm sure. And other things, right? But
Right.
but when you think about it, how many versions of phones that we have had between that phone and this one? They were seriously not good. Remember, I had phones that didn't even last a day in battery. They were really terrible. I'm not gonna mention names, but they were they were demonstrably terrible. And I had phones that if they slipped out of your hands, they would just disintegrate on the
Oh
ground.
Lord, yes, of
But we
course.
probably all did.
So,
So I think, as you're saying, the system is not. Let's stop saying the system is broken, guys. Let's find out why it's broken. Let's
yeah,
learn a little bit more about it, and let's push and help policies that do, and let's push the politicians to explain to us what are they going to do about it. What can they offer that we can stand behind and move it, right?
sure. I'm with you.
I think that's
Well,
That's my thing. Let's not
one of the
turn
ways
it
that
into
you
just a little punchline.
well, one of the ways that you can do that is like what we were talking about is comprehensive immigration reform. And I do like what you say. I think you helped me move the needle just a little bit on the situation that I'm going through personally, because there is a lot of, I'm not gonna lie, it is scary to be in a situation where you don't know what's going to happen to you next week, you know, and all you have is what's in front of you. And, yes, I have the ability to push upward in terms of my income, and I'm working on that. That's going to happen. And yes, I do feel the anger kind of compelling me to point and say, hey, you're to blame. And I do think there are some elements of truth to that. It's just, it's easy to oversimplify. Um, and part of the solution, I think, is, and I wholeheartedly believe this. Two, there needs to be a couple things. One, I do believe companies like DoorDash and Uber Eats need to ensure their drivers are who they say they are, and use things like e-verify, use things that ensure that people are who they say they are, because it becomes a safety issue once you don't know who the heck is delivering your food, or if DoorDash doesn't even know who's
Mhm.
delivering your food.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I think that's a fair and really good point. I 100% agree with you. I think you're right.
but
Right?
now
I mean, it's like getting
the
an
other,
Uber and you don't even know who the driver is. The driver is.
exactly,
So you're trusting that the system has
yes.
better than driver, right?
Exactly. So the other part, though, is that, and I think this is an important part, is that these individuals that are here, even if they're, say, gotaways and there's no I-10 and there's no documentation and they're just sort of under the radar or operating under the ground, allow them to come up to the surface. Allow them to, and I know California has tried to do this, and so has San Diego with IDs and driver's
Driver's
licenses and
license. Yeah.
HV60 and all that. Great. Okay, fine. But let's nationalize that, allow them to come to the surface, seal the border. I'm 100% for sealing that border. I not just me, seal it now. Let people immigrate to the United States, but seal the border so nobody can just come through whenever they want. I'm totally a proponent of that. I don't think I'll ever change that, by the way. I just don't see how anybody could like not want an actual border. But anyway, I digress on that. But make it to where they could come to the surface. They don't have to hide anymore. They do need to do things like perhaps, learn a little bit of English. You don't got to be fluent, okay, but to learn a little bit of English, take a couple tests, whatever, pay some money here, there, pay into the tax system. All right, you could come out, you could breathe now. You could be proud to be an American now.
I,
Welcome to the
you know,
family.
I've been a proponent since California when they were bringing up the IDs, right? And then you can have a different passport. And honestly, it's been disconnected so long, so I can't tell you if that's still the case. But if it is still the case, I thought it was one of the greatest things. In fact, I think that ID was a little more costly, and that's good, right? It was revenue for us Californians, revenue for the
Yeah.
DMV, um, and allowing people to drive with a driver's license, and then
Right.
actually have insurances. Which, by the way, not a single person that I ever know, knowing how dangerous the roads in California are, being in California, I can tell you, right? Uh, why don't we in a freeway without insurance? A lot of people do. They want to do the right thing. Allow them to
Yes.
have the path so they can do it.
Agreed.
Give them the
Agreed.
opportunity. The other thing I would say is I understand how you mentioned seal the borders. I think that's a huge mistake. But I say, let me change the word. We can make them safer. We can make it safer for the farmers, for themselves who are dangerously trying to cross the border in areas that are dangerous to their lives and others, that affect
Yes.
farmers in different states, right? Those things, we could make it safer. Let's safe it off. Let's make it so it's safer.
Well, yeah, and
Right.
make it to where you don't have to rely on a coyote or on a
Yeah,
cartel member to
a
get you
dangerous
across.
conflict. Well, that's what happens when you're trying to just seal it. We don't live on the Escape from LA, guys. I don't know. It feels like lately people got stuck in the movies in the 80s and they're really pushing to live there in movies like Escape from LA or The Running Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I heard this crazy thing about maybe make the immigrants fight with people in MMA.
Oh.
Isn't that
That's
a Running Man?
that's
Basically,
so
basically
inhumane,
the
man.
plot. Or okay, well, I know what I heard it, and you know what I heard it, and I'm not trying to be, I heard it from the leader, and that's crazy thought. And okay in it, or just thinking of brushing it off as just a joke, is also not okay. Now,
No, it's
uh,
not
I'm gonna,
funny.
I'm gonna, I'm gonna pause there for a second because I do want to bring something up. I, I want to say that thinking as an immigrant, one of the things is you emulate what other people do that are good, and you read off yourself from the things that you're doing that are not better. You understand? Not necessarily wrong, but
Mm.
you change your habits to the things that are better. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is I want to put a negative into a positive spin and then give you a little, and then just share it with everybody.
Mhm.
You mentioned, people that come from other countries, they share their finances and that helps them better. That's true. That is true. That happens a lot with a lot of families. And that allows those Hispanics to live and have 7 cars in their
Yes,
on their
of course.
apartment.
I
And three
I,
of
I
them are
see
put,
that.
and three of them are
And
freaking
businesses,
escalators.
and businesses, by the way.
Yeah, in businesses, and three of them are gigantic escalators. And sometimes you wonder, how's these people driving with these better cars? I'll tell you what, they share their finances. That allows
Yes,
them to
sir.
buy other things. And by the way, those cars were either purchased here, they were definitely purchased in America, or they were
Oh
even made in
yeah.
America. So, it brings to the economy. But going back to other things, you mentioned something, La Tanda. I know it as La Condina, and I thought it was important that I explain how La Condina works to give you guys an example. This is what happens when you have immigrant uh, uh, immigrant mentality, right? You have to succeed no matter what. And so it was very popular on some of the jobs that I had, where we had what we call La Condina or La Tanda, as you know it. And basically, what you did is you had a group of friends, employees that worked in the same thing, and everybody pitched in on a Friday on their paycheck with a determined amount of money that everybody had agreed upon. So to make this example very simple, was 10 people, $100 every week. So you grabbed $100 from your paycheck and you gave it to the manager of that person, and then that person will gather all 10 $100, turn it into $1,000, and today was John's day, right? The first person that jumped into the Kundina. That's it. It wasn't like a raffle. So John has $1,000, extra $1,000 that paycheck. And usually, what people would do is they'll completely pay off their credit cards, or they'll go buy another car, And they would do this every week. So every week you would give up $100, and at some point it'll be your turn, and you'll have everybody's money is collected to you. And it was a buying power. It was really helpful. In fact, I was in it, and that allowed me to buy my first upgrade used car. So I was really happy about it.
Nice.
Yeah. So
That's awesome, David. And that is admirable. And that's one thing that I really love that I've learned about the immigrant community. And I'm going to tell you right now, most of the people that I've known who were Trump supporters or who are on the right or called themselves conservative, they had no idea what a tanda condino was. They had no idea. They have no idea. And a lot of them don't even want to hear it because and that's where I think we're just being super irresponsible for individuals who consider them as conservatives or Republicans because you have a right to your opinion, but you shouldn't have I don't think you have the moral latitude to not listen and learn from other people that are here, like whether they are quote unquote legal or illegal, because no matter what, when somebody comes to your door or comes to your country, you need to figure out why they're there, how we can help them, if we can help them at all. I think that's our moral duty as citizens.
I can tell you, yes, I agree that we should have that check, but I don't want to put it on the American people to check. I don't want to put it on the American people the burden, because there is also that why, right? Why do I even have to go through the trouble? But I can tell you this: very, very large, if not every single person that I have met that are immigrants, they have, in one way or another, the same mentality I have. We came here to this country because this is the greatest country in the world,
Right.
and we want to keep it that way. Now, some may not be able to learn English as fast as others, but they all have a lot of pride and they love this place. And so when you think about it, your chances are very high. They're finding extremely motivated, hardworking, and caring people. Then you're gonna have the other side. Now there is always the other side, right? But we should be concerned
Sure.
about we should be concerned about screening the other side and not demonize all the people that put all this really hard work um, to make this country better.
Well, I think that's a perfect place for us to segue out of this conversation. But I do, because I think everybody wants to enjoy our country together, enjoy how great America is already, by the way. It's not that we have to make it great again, we have to continue making it great. All right. So, but the other thing is, I just want to throw in there is that, the United States has a very long history of treating immigrant groups pretty damn horribly. And when I was researching just surface level research for our episode here is the Bracero program, which operated, from I believe it was the 1930s to the 50s or somewhere around there. We were bringing in massive amounts of Mexican farm labor, and there was a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment in the country at that time, and there was some pro, but there was a lot of anti, and because of the spread of tuberculosis, the fear that tuberculosis would be spread from the way they characterize it. This is not me now. The dirty people, and that's the way that they characterize it, not me. And so what would happen is a lot of these people would have to come in and take kerosene baths or gasoline baths in order to cleanse them, quote unquote, from any potential diseases. And of course, it's just so unhealthy, but it's dehumanizing. And what we're doing now is we're doing the same thing as we're dehumanizing people, but not through kerosene baths, but through verbal assaults. And I don't think that's the great. I don't think that's being great. We need to continue to keep America great, and we don't do that by demonizing and creating inhumane conditions for people. We do it through understanding, like you and I are talking about.
Exactly. Actually, I think I wanna just add to something. I'm I'm a sci-fi fan. I don't want to say that I am a huge Star Trek fan because I don't want to undermine real Star Trek fans. But I'm a fairly Star Trek fan. I'm the low level amateur level fan of Star Trek. Okay, so for everybody
Huh?
who actually is a real Star Trek
Oh
fan,
boy.
lots of respect. But it's funny. I was watching a comment the other day as they were YouTube started sharing Star Trek Stranger New Worlds, right? Strange New Worlds, and I've seen that show. I'm on season 4 right now, and I, it was funny because it was a microcosm of the political environment right now. To me, looking at the comments line, when the show started, one other person put in a comment, okay, and he wasn't being uh, he wasn't being disrespectful. He just said, I don't really like this show. I don't really understand. It feels like they're pushing this woke agenda so hard. Is what he put in there, and it wasn't trying to be again, not necessarily insulting. He just that's how he felt, right? And I can respect his opinion. And I looked at it and I grinned and I thought, hey, dude, have you ever paid attention to PNG, the original series, or the original series of the Next Generation of Star Trek? Star Trek has always been woke. It's like it's never not been woke, right?
Exactly.
The original one. Are you look at the people that was there in the show? That was crazy what they were bringing. They were bringing a perfect society where all kinds of races all together into this spaceship, learning new things. That's what Star Trek was always about. So just to see it in the comments, going, "Oh, this show is really bringing woke." I go, yeah, I think that's how you feel, buddy. Because
Well, that's the term has
you're
become so
missing the point.
politicized itself that anytime anybody mentions the word woke, it's like boom, hot button issue right there. It's like, what do you mean woke? Don't call me woke. Or if you're
Yeah,
for woke, you're like, yeah, I'm woke. It's just
exactly.
we just grab onto these things, and a lot of people just don't even know what it is really. And they're just like, yeah, I'm this and I'm that. I'm gonna wear it as a badge. I'm just like, oh God, okay, it's crazy. But oh well, is there anything else you want to add on there, Ernesto, or
No, that's
that's
it,
it?
Trevor, and I think it was amazing. I hope everybody had a good time listening to it, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Absolutely, I'm there with you, buddy.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.